Hey everybody, Grandpa here. I give away things every week, as you know, and they're pretty good. And it's actually a fun thing to do. But there is an ultimate goal here. So I'm going to tell you a little story and you can see why I do this. So back 33 years ago, I lived here in New Jersey. And there's a hospital about 10 miles from my house called the Tomorrow's Children's Institute. It is a cancer and blood center hospital for children. And I'm a pretty good sports photographer. I have really good camera equipment. So I used to take pictures at hockey games and at football games. And then I'd go and meet the players. And sometimes they'd ask me for a copy of a photo. And I'd be glad to give them a copy of a photo. And one time, Bill Guerin, I took a picture and showed it to him, gave it to him, and he said, he asked me for a copy. And I said, hey, Billy, I said, there's a cancer center for kids. Do you think you'd ever be available to go in there and just meet some kids that have cancer? And he said, sure. So we decided to meet at the Tomorrow's Children's Institute. We did this several times. And he would just walk around. They knew we were there. They had somebody escort us from room to room, and we would walk into rooms and he would sit down and talk to people for 10, 15 minutes. And what people don't really understand is when a child has cancer, I actually had to see this to understand it. It's not just the child that you have to, even if for 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, if you can get the thought of I have cancer out of their head, you'd be surprised how there's such a change in their personality, but also there's a change in their parents' personalities also. It's just incredible to watch. So Billy and I would go visit these children, and I gave Billy a lot of photographs, and Billy would do some autographs. I was a coach for a street hockey league, and Billy came up and signed autographs for everybody. So we were really good friends, and he asked me one day to get his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife, was a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. Now, I was friends with some of the giant football players also. So Billy asked me to get some tickets. And I said, sure, how many would you like? And he said, 3. And I said, 3? Nobody wants 3 tickets. I said, wouldn't you rather have 4? He goes, well, I can use 4. I said, well, do you want more than 4? I mean, I'm friends with these football players. I can get you as many as you want. And he said, well, I could use 4. And that's all I really need. I said, okay, so I got him tickets to an Eagles game because his future wife lived in South Jersey and she was an Eagles fan. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'm just going to insert it into this video. And that's Scott Niedermayer on the left, and that's Bill Guerin on the right. Scott's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and Billy's in the United States Hockey Hall of Fame. So I did this with giant football players also. I used to do this with Stacy Dillard, who was a defensive lineman for the Giants. Now, I'm 6'3", 290, and Stacy was, I'm going to say, 6'5", 320. And I'd walk next to him and I'd feel small. So one day, Stacy brought William Roberts with him. Now, William Roberts was 6'6", 330. So here I am walking down the hall of this Tomorrow's Children's Institute, which is basically a hospital. And I have William Roberts on one side of me and Stacy Dillard on the other side of me. And I literally did say to myself, Jesus, I'm little. These guys were huge. So here's where the story gets really incredible. We walk into a room, and as you walk into a room, you can see the bed there. And the head of the bed is on the left, and the foot of the bed is a little towards the middle of the room. And on the other side, there's a young man in the bed. He looks like he's 18, actually. I found out later he was 18 years old. And on the other side of the bed was a woman who ended up being his mother. And she was looking down at him, and he had the worst look on his face. It was horrible. But he heard somebody coming into the room, and he turned and looked, and he saw William Roberts and Stacy Dillard. And he smiled. And William and Stacy sat on the bed and talk to him for a half hour. He had Burkitt's syndrome. He had a big tumor in his chest. He had an operation to have it removed. He had a tube into his chest for chemotherapy. He was 18 years old. He had received an award, a key to the city that he lived in, for saving somebody who was in a house in a fire. And so I just stood there. You know, I'm nobody. I was a Cub master. And this was part of a Cub Scout master's job, was to do community service type things. So this woman comes over to me, and this is his mother, and her name is Luella Favor. And Luella says, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, my name's Mark." And she goes, "Well, I mean, what are you? You know, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm a Cub master, and part of my job is community service. So I bring hockey players and football players by to visit kids, and I take pictures because I have good camera equipment. And then what I would do is I would get them blown up into 8x10s and give them to the hospital to give to the kids the next time they were, because they had to come back for treatments every now and then." And she goes, "Phew, this is really hard to say." She goes, "Well, I just want to thank you. My son has been in this hospital for 6 weeks, and this is the first time he smiled since he's been here." So I got to know Josh Favor very well. He had been given a Division I scholarship to play football, but once he had the tumor, the scholarship was revoked. And now he was a huge football fan. So I brought him by Giants Stadium, and they took him into the Giants locker room to take a tour. And there was a senior / pro football player golf tournament in North Jersey. I took him there, and he got to meet Steve Young, Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms. He got to meet everybody that he dreamed of. And I gave him 8x10s of all of these. So that's a pretty incredible story, that somebody who hadn't smiled for 6 weeks smiled when he saw these two players. So now here's my ultimate goal. I'm giving away all these cards and boxes, and it's no big deal to me. I mean, I love doing it, don't get me wrong, but it's from a financial perspective, it's really not a big thing. And I eventually want to get to the point where I can get big enough where I can talk to some of the office personnel of the Devils, because they're 20 miles from me. The Devils practice arena is 20 miles from here in New Jersey. And of course, Giants and Jets play here, and I could start taking them to the Tomorrow's Children's Institute again. That's what I really want to do. So first I want to get a little bigger on Instagram and YouTube, so I can then present that to the back office personnel for the Devils, Giants, and Jets, and see if I can get some players to go in and visit these really horribly ill children. Yeah, it's something to see, and these guys, you'd be surprised they are willing to give up their time. They are such wonderful people that play for these teams. You know, I've had Lawrence Taylor sign 50 things for me to raise funds for my Cub Scout pack. And people always, you hear bad things. Lawrence Taylor is such a nice guy. I've had interaction with him after interaction, and he's just a wonderful man. And it's Phil Simms and Leonard Marshall and Stacy Dillard. These are all really, really nice people, willing to help, go out of their way to help. So that's my ultimate goal. I want to bring football and hockey players in to visit these kids with cancer. But I have to become a little bigger on my perspective. That's what I'm thinking. I may be wrong. But I have to become a little bigger on YouTube and Instagram. My Instagram account has over 13,000 followers. My YouTube has over 6,300, and it's growing. You know, I'm still new. I'm less than a year old. But I have to thank each and every one of you, for coming on board and staying with me and watching my videos. You're all being very helpful to me, so thank you very much. And if you have any questions, just drop me a line. I'll be glad to answer them. So this is Grandpa saying thanks for watching, and I hope you have a real... Now, we're going back. Today's Monday. We're going back to Las Vegas tomorrow. So there may not be a lot posted tomorrow because we're flying, but we'll see. So this is Grandpa saying thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.